Hey y'all, I want to do a quick video about Ready, Willing, and Able. You had to do that for homework last night, and I wanted to show you what I thought about that paper. So I went through and I made some markups. I do want to tell you where you can find this. You actually can find it in the assignment where you had to turn in your work. For some reason, when I stand it with a good title, it would not show you the whole thing. So this is why it's this way. But if you click on this, here is the document with my notes, and this is my handwriting. So just a couple little things that I want to talk about. First, the genre is narrative. So this is actually the kind of paper that you're going to write later. Well, actually, not that much later, but we're going to get started on next week, really. So anyway, I want to talk about this draft. So I read all three. I've read this a million times. So here are my thoughts on this. So we have our draft one. And a couple things that I think about that. Number one, in draft one, we have our author who talks about her experience, but she talks about three different experiences and she gives no detail whatsoever. And I think there's problems with her thesis and her introduction. So we'll get started really quickly. I don't think she sets up enough in her intro. So the intro is where you basically you introduce the story. And really she starts to kind of introduce the story, but it just is not enough. And then I said the thesis is not reflective at all. She just says, I spent last summer volunteering. So then I was like, well, I read the next paragraph and I was like, they probably could combine those two and maybe this would be a better thesis. I said she should combine these paragraphs, and that's a paragraph symbol if you're like, what is Hunter saying right there? So then she goes through it, and I think she doesn't go into any great detail about the three different places that she worked. So she worked basically with Seymour, but she also worked at a daycare center, and then she worked at a homeless shelter, and so she doesn't really give a whole lot of detail. So I said she could make a narrative out of each one of these paragraphs, which she eventually does. So then I want to talk about kind of what I wrote on here. Not a bad start. It wasn't a bad start. I said I think she needs to work on her intro paragraph. Each body paragraph needs more detail. And one of the things I was thinking about, in each one, she mentions, like in the daycare, that some of the kids have trouble finger painting. Why? Why do they have trouble finger painting? You know, that was a detail that she could have given me very easily. So that's kind of what I'm talking about there. I don't think she gave enough detail. So anyway, I said each body paragraph needs more detail. And then I said not enough reflection at all. So then, when I got down here, I said, this is the grade I might give it. 77 to an 80, so that's a high C, low B. And I'm okay with that. But let's get to our second draft. So I'm thinking that the teacher was like, hey man, you need to revise this paper, and what I want you to do is talk about one of these things and go into great detail. And the second draft is a direct result of that. She probably said to herself, I can't write a whole story about this. And that's why this one is so much shorter than the other one, because she thought maybe I can't do it. So anyway, I said number one, kind of in this same area, she started the action instead of introducing the story. That's my first problem with an introduction. You have to know that the introduction is not the body, and so they introduce the story, not start the action. And I say she doesn't have much of a thesis here. She doesn't have a thesis here. Good thing she did, she added a little dialogue, and that little moment is pretty interesting. And then she also added a good deal of reflection. And so I thought that's good. And then I said no conclusion at all. So, what does Hunter think here? No thesis, focuses on one part, but not enough at all. Needs much more detail, no conclusion. Believe it or not, draft 2 would get a lower grade for me than draft 1. Because I just think it's so short. It's so short, and it doesn't give any detail. At least the other one gave it a little shot, you know. So then let's go to draft 3. So first thing out the door, which is really good for me, I love the hook. And you know, the hook is the thing that gets us invested in the story. So I think that's a great piece of description right there. So then I said I still don't think it has a great thesis. I just don't see where she's telling me how this changed her life. And I think, again, one thing I don't love is that it gets right to the action when it needs to be introducing the action. I marked this little part with what was on the posters. I thought that was nice detail. And obviously now we're getting in that moment where she's really just talking to Seymour, and it's pretty interesting. So I said she added back some of the nice detail from the first draft because it's like she skipped this really great thing about the kid having the temper tantrum, with the bracelet and the Twinkie eater, and I was just thinking, man, that was great detail. Why did she get rid of that for a second draft? And I really think, I see her probably just being kind of aggravated that she was even asked to do a second draft, so that's kind of what I was thinking there. But she added some stuff back, and it looks good. She kept her dialogue in here. And I thought she had a lot of nice reflection in here. And that is really important, you guys. It's really, really important. So keep that in mind. And then I said, I don't love the conclusion. Doesn't feel like it really concludes to me. So that's kind of my thought on that. So a couple things that I marked that I don't like. Number one, it does not have an explicit thesis. And I don't think it really sets up much either. I don't love the introduction. And I don't love the conclusion. However, last little thing, I'm going to move this down so you can actually see it. See what I'm thinking. However, I think it uses nice detail, it uses nice dialogue, and it uses nice reflection. I also think it builds tension, and we talked about that whenever we talked about the characteristics of narrative. So I do think this is much better no matter what. And so the grade I gave it, the grade I gave it was a 91 to a 93 because I still think it's great, but it still has issues with introduction, thesis, conclusion. And I would say probably it's more leaning toward 91 to me, but anyway, that's all I wanted to say. If you have any questions about this at all, let me know, okay? Bye, you guys.